Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue with the latest developments in the emotional story of the single mother, Ly Hoai Ca. In the previous episode, many were likely shocked to witness the sudden and aggressive appearance of Officer Hung's mother, a woman with a criminal past who was once wanted by the authorities. Not only did she verbally attack Hoai Ca, but she also blatantly threatened her, despite still being on the run from the law. Fortunately, Hung arrived just in time to protect the woman he loves, once again proving that he's willing to break all barriers to stand by her side. However, after that incident, Hoai Ca was left with growing fears and inner conflict. She realized that their love was no longer just about the two of them. Too many things were now entangled in their story. Faced with Hung's mother's cruel rejection, she began to consider stepping away, so Hung could live a peaceful life, free from the torment of choosing between filial duty and love. Meanwhile, Hung's mother is now hospitalized, her health deteriorating to the point where she's barely able to communicate. As for Hung, although his heart is a whirlwind of emotions, he must remain at the hospital a few more days to complete his treatment. During this time, he lives in anxious suspense, torn between caring for his ailing mother and worrying about Hoai Ca, the woman who seems ready to leave him once again. And then, today, the very day Hung is discharged from the hospital, he returns home with a heartfelt question. Can we still start over again? But fate refuses to give them peace. Tony, Hoai Ca's young son, suddenly falls ill. The boy begins showing strange symptoms, leaving Hoai Ca in a state of panic. Standing at a crossroads between love, family, and the terrifying possibility of losing her child, what will Hoai Ca choose? Today's episode marks a dramatic new chapter in the life of single mother Hoai Ca. Every decision she makes, whether right or wrong, comes from a place of love and the deep desire to protect the ones she holds most dear. Stay tuned, every moment in this episode carries intense emotions and unexpected turns. And if you've been following Hoai Ca's journey, don't forget to leave a comment and share your feelings, because your words of encouragement might just give strength to other single mothers out there. After returning home, Hoai Ca nearly collapsed. She lay motionless, her vacant eyes staring at the ceiling, while inside, it felt as if thousands of blades were piercing her soul. The harsh, venomous words of Hung's mother still echoed in her mind, a haunting chorus with no escape. If you don't get out of his life, I'll die to prove it. Let him live with the shame of being an unfilial son for the rest of his life. Back then, Hoai Ca had tried to stay calm. But now, alone in her small room, all her courage crumbled. She broke down in tears, crying for her own pain, for the unbearable guilt that weighed heavier by the minute. In her mind, she saw Hung's face, the man who had defied everything to be by her side, who had shielded her and her child time and time again from judgment, whispers, and danger. And yet, now she might be the one to push him into the greatest tragedy of his life, being seen as a son who disrespected his mother. Hoai Ca blamed herself. If only she hadn't stubbornly held on to this love. If only she had let go at the right moment, maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. Her presence, this relationship, could it be the very thing that's destroying the life of the person she loves most? That inner torment lasted all night. And in a moment of weakness, Hoai Ca made a heartbreaking decision. She had to leave Hung. No goodbye. No explanation. Just vanish. Her phone kept ringing. Hung's name appeared on the screen again and again. But Hoai Ca just stared at it silently, then turned it off. She didn't have the strength to hear his voice. Didn't have the courage to hear him ask, "Where are you?" Because she knew, if she heard him, she wouldn't be able to walk away. Ha stood quietly by the window, watching Hoai Ca curled up in the corner of the room, her eyes distant, as if lost in a sea of thoughts. She was no longer crying, but it was that very silence that pierced his heart more than any sob ever could. Because he understood that, at this moment, her heart was full of wounds no one could touch or soothe. He understood her pain deeply. He understood the torment between love and filial duty, between personal emotions and family pressure. And because he understood, he felt all the more helpless. He, the one who had always been by her side, who had offered her his shoulder when she needed it, who had quietly protected her and her child during Hung's absence, could now do nothing but watch. The most painful thing of all was seeing the one he loved in pain, and being powerless to ease it. There were moments when he had wondered, perhaps this fracture between her and Hung might become his chance. That if she decided to let go, if she needed someone else to lean on, he would be the one to step forward. He would make up for everything with sincerity. He would use time to heal the wounds in her heart. But then, all those thoughts vanished when he saw the truth. Her heart had never left Hung. Despite the pain, the conflict, the wounds, every time she spoke of Hung, her eyes were full of love. And he knew, if he tried to step between them, what he would bring her wouldn't be happiness, but a life lacking something essential. A life where her heart would never be truly whole. With that realization, Ha slowly clenched his fist. He turned away, suppressing a sigh, but his eyes still held a quiet warmth and enduring compassion. Perhaps, the best thing he could do for her was to help her return to the man she truly loved. Whether as a friend, or as someone who remained in the shadows, he still wanted to see her smile again, a real smile from the heart, not one born of silent endurance. That day, after many days in the hospital, recovering from wounds both physical and emotional, Hung was finally discharged by the doctor. His body was still weak, but his heart could no longer wait. The moment he stepped out of the hospital, he headed straight back, carrying with him an overwhelming longing for Hoai Ca and a promise he'd made to himself. He would do whatever it took to hold on to her. But when he arrived, he found the gate slightly ajar, the house eerily quiet. Upon asking around, he was told that Hoai Ca had gone up to the orchard to pick longans. Yet he knew, she was avoiding him. And he understood why. He sat quietly on the steps, beneath the golden rays of the late afternoon sun, waiting. Every passing minute felt like an eternity. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the earthy scent of the forest and a faint sweetness of ripened longans, but none of it registered with him. His mind was drowning in everything left unsaid. Then Ha appeared. Without reproach, without hesitation, he sat down beside Hung and spoke directly. "I think, you need to know what happened between your mother and Hoai Ca." Ha's voice was calm, but every word cut deep into Hung's heart like a blade. He recounted everything, how Hung's mother had come, hurled insults, made threats, even threatened suicide if Hoai Ca didn't walk away. Nothing was left out. Hung sat frozen. His face turned pale, eyes downcast, unable to hide the pain and shame. Ha looked at him, not with anger, but with quiet sincerity, and added, "She's a good woman, Hung. And she loves you, very deeply. I once thought of stepping in, but I realized, her heart never left you. If you don't hold on to her now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Ha's words were like a wake-up call. In that moment, every memory, every hardship, every sacrifice Hoai Ca had made for him, came flooding back. Hung felt a crushing guilt that made it hard to even lift his eyes. Clenching his fists, his voice choked with emotion, he said, I didn't know my mother went that far. I thought she had changed. I'm sorry, and I promise. I won't let Hoai Ca suffer anymore. I'll fix this, completely." It was a promise not just to Ha, but to himself. A promise to the love that had never faded in his heart for Hoai Ca. Late in the afternoon, the fiery red glow of sunset stretched across the dusty road leading down to the longan orchard. Hùng was still standing there, his shoes caked with dirt, his face darkened by the sun and waiting. He had been there for hours, without food, without rest, just to wait for one woman. The woman he loved with all his heart. And then, from afar, Hoai Ca appeared. She walked quietly down the slope, her arms holding a heavy basket of longans. The moment she saw Hùng, her steps faltered. A tense silence hung between them. But Hoai Ca quickly buried the emotions rising inside. Her face turned cold, her voice dry. Go home. I don't want to see you anymore. I'm tired. We should end this here. Every word felt like a blade slicing into Hung's heart. But he didn't lash out, didn't yell or accuse. Instead, he stepped forward and pulled her into a tight embrace, so tight, as if letting go meant losing her forever. I know everything now, Hoai Ca. I know what my mother did. Ha told me. You don't have to pretend to push me away anymore. Hoai Ca trembled slightly in his arms. Her shoulders slumped, as if all the strength she had held onto suddenly evaporated. Hùng looked up, his eyes red with emotion, his voice thick with pain. I'm sorry I made you go through it alone. But we've already weathered so much together. Are we really going to let one old wound destroy everything? You know it, you're everything to me. Now I only have you. Without you, everything I've fought for means nothing. His words, honest and full of anguish, tore through the defenses in Hoai Ca's heart. Her tears spilled, warm and fast, soaking into Hung's shirt. I'm sorry. I thought I should step back, so you wouldn't have to suffer anymore. I was afraid your mother would do something reckless, afraid that I'd be the reason you got hurt. Hùng gently cupped her cheek, wiping her tears with a gaze more tender than ever. Don't apologize. I'm the one who should say sorry, for not protecting you from my mother sooner. But this time, I will. I promise. Hoai Ca looked at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded, a small gesture, but enough to make Hung's heart burst with emotion. She no longer had the strength to pretend. She was just a woman, longing to be loved, to be protected, and now, in his arms, she was finally allowed to be herself. Hùng gently squeezed Hoai Ca's hand in reassurance. His voice was calm and steady, yet filled with unwavering determination. My recovery's going well. The doctor said I just need a few more days of rest, and I'll be completely fine. You don't have to worry anymore. Stay here, live in peace, okay? Leave the rest to me. Hoai Ca's eyes shimmered. She looked at him, the man who once collapsed under the weight of pain, family conflict, and the struggle between love and duty, now standing strong before her, like an unshakable wall of protection. Her heart softened, calmed by his presence. As long as you're healthy, as long as you're here with me and our child. I don't need anything else. They rested their heads gently against each other. No grand promises, no flood of tears, because their love, by now, had matured beyond the need for words. They were no longer just lovers. Between them, after all the hurt, misunderstandings, and breaking points, was a bond that could never be undone. The next morning, sunlight bathed the orchard in golden warmth. The longan trees were heavy with fruit, sweet, fragrant, and full, just like the life now blossoming before them. Hùng and Hoai Ca picked longans together and brought them to market. The villagers, familiar with the couple, were overjoyed to see them side by side again, more radiant, more joyful than ever. Today's longans from Hoai Ca and Hung's orchard are extra sweet. Come try some. Hùng called out with a wide smile, while Hoai Ca stood beside him, playfully giving him a side glance, but unable to hide the sparkle of happiness in her eyes. Together, they arranged the fruit, laughed, chatted, and counted the coins in their old cloth pouch. Not wealthy, not grand, but they had something money could never buy: peace after the storm, and a love that had endured the test of time and come out stronger than ever. Beneath the shade of the lush longan trees, Hoai Ca looked up at Hung and quietly thought, maybe, if we had never lost each other, we would have never realized just how simple, yet profound happiness could truly be. From a distance, Ha silently watched the two of them happily arranging bunches of longans in front of the market. Hoai Ca's laughter rang out in the morning light, blending with Hung's playful voice as he joked with the neighborhood ladies. A faint smile crossed Ha's lips, a sad smile, but not one of regret. His heart twinged slightly. Even though he had prepared himself for this, had already made the choice to step back, witnessing, in real time, the woman he loved truly happy in someone else's arms, it wasn't easy. He had hoped. He had once thought, in another time, under different circumstances, perhaps it could have been him walking beside her through these village markets, picking longans together, counting every coin. But Ha understood better than anyone, love isn't something you force your way into. It isn't a contest to be won. Hoai Ca's heart, from beginning to end, had always belonged to Hung. And Hung, a man of strength and deep responsibility, deserved to be the one she chose to entrust her life to. Ha gently tightened his grip around the handle of his basket and turned to leave the market. His steps were calm, not hurried, not heavy. In his heart, along with a trace of wistfulness, was a profound sense of peace. The woman he loved had finally found true happiness. And that was enough. It seemed that happiness had finally smiled on them after countless storms. Hung and Hoai Ca were back together at last, sharing meals, sharing peaceful sleep, and exchanging gentle smiles beneath the sweet longan trees. They believed that as long as Hung's mother let go of her resentment, everything would be fine. But fate, once again, struck them cruelly. That night, Tony, the bright and healthy little boy, suddenly came down with a high fever. His body burned with heat, sweat pouring like rain, yet his lips turned pale and his eyelids trembled uncontrollably. Despite wiping him down, using cool compresses, and giving him fever medication, his temperature wouldn't drop. His eyes grew hazy, his breathing rapid. Hoai Ca was terrified. Hung immediately scooped him up and rushed to the hospital in the dead of night. The ambulance siren pierced through the silence. In the front seat, Hoai Ca gripped her son's hand tightly, tears silently streaming down her face. In the emergency room, doctors ran urgent tests. After more than an hour of tense waiting, a doctor stepped out with a grave look in his eyes. "We suspect that Tony may have a rare illness. We can't confirm anything yet, but it could be related to an immune system disorder. We've given him medication to temporarily reduce the fever. He can go home for observation for the next 2 to 3 days while we await the final results." The words hit like a lightning bolt. Hoai Ca stood frozen. She couldn't move, only the pounding of her heart echoed in her ears. The world spun. She felt herself falling into a bottomless void, where the only light in her life, her son Tony, was now surrounded by a shadow of invisible danger. This time, she cried, not quiet tears, but sobs of anguish and helplessness, the kind only a mother can feel when fate threatens to take away the child she loves more than her own life. Hung wrapped his arms around her, his voice hoarse. "I'm here. We'll get through this together. I promise." Back at home, Hung didn't leave her side. Together, they cared for Tony, wiping his sweat, changing the cloths, monitoring every breath. Neither of them slept. Their eyes were filled with worry, but also with a quiet strength, for the child they both cherished. Even Hung's mother, who once loved Tony like her own grandchild, came. She cooked porridge, brewed herbal medicine, rubbed ointment on Tony's chest, and gently comforted Hoai Ca like she were her own daughter. In that moment, they were no longer people bound by resentment, but a true family, united in their fight for a fragile little life. Suddenly, while Hung was placing a warm towel on Tony's forehead, his phone rang. It was his superior, the head of the Special Police Task Force. Hung paused, glancing at Hoai Ca as she held their son tightly. His instincts screamed, this call wasn't going to be simple. He stepped out to the porch and answered. "Hello, I'm here." The voice on the other end was sharp and urgent. "Hung, we need you back immediately. There's been a new development, involving your mother. She's just been linked to a very serious incident. This is no longer a personal matter. Do you understand?" Hung gripped the phone tightly. His chest felt like it was being crushed. On one side, a sick child, the son of the woman he loved. On the other, justice, and the mother he once tried so hard to protect. He knew now, this time, there would be no running away. That late-night call was more than just an order. It was the beginning of a new storm, a chain of events more unexpected, more tangled, and more brutal than anything Hung had ever faced. On the other end of the line, his superior's voice was sharp and urgent. "Hung, your mother's case isn't as simple as we thought. She's not just tied to an old fraud, she may be linked to something bigger, a network, organized, and dangerous. And someone's dead." Hung's heart froze. That sentence dragged him back into the harsh reality of the profession he had chosen. And this time, it wasn't just personal, it was about the honor of the entire force. Hung knew, if he accepted this mission, he would have to confront his own mother, not as a son, but as a police officer. He would have to step into a web of crimes darker and deeper than he'd imagined. But if he refused, he'd be betraying everything he stood for. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Hoai Ca remained by Tony's bedside. The boy wheezed with every breath, occasionally murmuring, "Mom," before slipping back into a feverish daze. Although medication had been administered, the doctors still couldn't confirm anything until the final biopsy results came in. Holding her child tightly, Hoai Ca whispered a silent prayer. "As long as you get better, I'm willing to give up everything." And in that moment, each in their own way, Hung and Hoai Ca stood at the edge of themselves. They realized something profound. Love isn't just about being there in joy, it's about shouldering the storms together. Will Hung accept the mission to investigate his own mother? Will Tony survive the critical illness? And Hoai Ca, the fragile woman who has endured so much, does she still have the strength to stand when life throws her into chaos once more? All remains unknown. Will their love be strong enough to defy fate? Will they ever find true happiness in the end? Stay tuned for the heart-pounding next chapter.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Thì hôm nay mình tiếp tục đưa mọi người đến với câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca. Như mọi người cũng đã biết thì ở trong tập trước, Hoài Ca đã đối diện với mẹ của Hùng và cô đã rất tốn thời gian khi phải giằng co với mẹ Hùng, và mẹ Hùng thậm chí đã đưa ra tối hậu thư, khiến cho Hoài Ca phải đưa bản thân vào quyết định là sẽ rời xa Hùng. Tuy nhiên thì Hà đã nói sự thật cho Hùng biết, và Hùng với tình yêu và sự kiên nhẫn đã khuyên bảo Hoài Ca và khiến cô nhận ra rằng nếu như hai người rời xa nhau thì thực sự thì cũng không thể giải quyết được cái chuyện gì, khi bây giờ mọi chuyện nó đã quá lớn như vậy rồi, và anh hy vọng là Hoài Ca sẽ cùng anh ở cạnh anh để vượt qua khó khăn. Tưởng chừng hai người đã hạnh phúc bên nhau, nhưng mà Tony, con của Hoài Ca, bỗng nhiên đổ bệnh Vậy thì mọi chuyện sẽ diễn biến tiếp theo như thế nào? Mời mọi người đón xem tập sau để biết thêm nha.